Cool.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite benevolent dictator. It's me, President Obonjo. I hope you're all doing well and getting ready for the Christmas, even though it's not been cancelled. I don't know where you guys are. I know I've got listeners from all over the world, from Australia to Indonesia. But where I am currently residing, because I'm still under house arrest, it's clear to me, based on the information that my people have told me about the British government, that we are now in tier 3, which means that, constant lockdown until the new year. And I haven't done any Christmas shopping. I feel so sorry for my neighbor because I might need their Christmas turkey. Don't tell them, but what might happen. But I am so pleased to welcome our next guest. This is episode 17 of If Comedians Rule the World. And just let me tell you a little bit about Durassie, who is a London-based actor and physical performer. His passion of physical theater and movement has allowed him to travel and perform at various international festivals around Europe, as well as UK venues such as Royal Albert Hall, Royal Opera House, and Leeds Grand Theatre. Let me just repeat that. These are all royal venues: Royal Albert Hall, Royal Opera House, and Leeds Grand Theatre. And if you don't know these venues, then you don't know anything. As a bilingual voice artist, not only is he a physical performer as a dancer, he's also a voice artist. He has worked with clients such as Google, Xbox, Xmedia, Expedia, all in Swedish. So maybe one of the things that might happen today is that Durassie might teach me how to speak Swedish, if that's the way it is, or Sweden, whatever it is. With over 5 years, not only is he a physical performer, not only is he a model, he's actually a model with over 5 years of professional modeling experience. He has modeled for brands such as Gucci, New Look, Hush Puppies, Nike, as Nigerians call it, and Adidas. Look, you would hear I never said anything about Primark or Lidl. Let me just repeat his modeling experience. His modeling experience is Hush Puppies, Gucci, New Look, Hush Puppies, Nike or Nike, and Adidas. No Primark, no Lidl. Very, very, sophisticated designer places. And in 2018, he choreographed the opening and closing on Ben Sharma's Catwalk show at London Men's Fashion Week at Somerset House. This man, I call a brother, is very, very talented, as you can tell. He is very talented. So give it up for Durassie. How are you, Durassie?
I'm good. Wow, what an introduction. Yes, I didn't know that's how Nigerians pronounce Nike.
Yes, Nike.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I know Google, but like Nike, that's
Nike. They don't really call it that way. It's just that Nike is a Yoruba name. And as far as I'm concerned, it should be called by its Yoruba name. That's what we call cultural appropriation. They just took that name and changed it to Nike,
Nothing would surprise me. Do you know what I mean? I can't agree, I can't disagree, but nothing would surprise me. Yeah. Do some research on that.
How have you been? I'm trying to remember, not because Alzheimer's has set in. I'm trying to remember where we met. I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, we met at a comedy gig somewhere in Tottenham or Manor House. And there was someone who was hosting some kind of event there. And that's how I met you, with another friend of mine called Rick Pistol. And it so happened that was the beginning of my comedy career, which was well over 11 years ago.
Wow, I don't think it was. I think it was like 8 years ago. Come on, don't try to make yourself feel old here. Like, it was like 8 years ago.
I never said I was old. I'm mature. It's you trying to remember.
I can't believe I called the dictator old, man.
It's okay. It's okay. This is what happens when you conduct an interview in a democratic country. You're allowed to just say what you need to say. But yeah, that was. And you know what's really interesting about that gig is that I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what comedy was. I just went on stage and I did what I needed to do. I didn't even have a set. I just said something, said a few things, so people were just laughing.
Some people have it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's literally just what I was saying. Some people actually just have it.
Yeah, but then I look at where I was and where I am now and where you are, because you have done fantastically well in terms of growth. It's just unbelievable. I remember going going back to London. This was before the lockdown, and I saw a poster of you, and I said, "No, that can't be him." Yeah. Now I see your face all over the place. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
So how's it? Let's start with this challenging times that we have had over the last 9 months or so. How have you coped, and how has that affected your industry?
Wow. I mean, it goes without saying, the industry has been it's been flogged. I see. Especially if you do theatre. A lot of my friends do theatre. One of my housemates, who's a poet and also an actor, and he does musical theatre. He was literally about to go on stage when they closed everything. Like literally about to go on stage when they said, "Guys, we have to close the show. Everyone's have to go home." And the week I was about to perform at the English National Opera, I was doing rehearsal. That same week, everything got cancelled, which I knew that was going to happen. I had a feeling that was going to happen, so I was kind of mentally prepared. So in the stage industry and the events industry, it definitely got a thrashing, and it is really heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking to see that. Saying that, however, despite that, I've been taking things one day at a time. So when everything got closed down and it was like, whoa, I threw myself into other stuff. I started, I was lucky enough to get a full-time job from home, which was selling COVID-related treatments to hospitals. Completely different skill, and I'm really grateful for that. But I just threw myself into things because I always need to do something. So that was my way of distracting things. And I've been taking things one day at a time. But saying that, the past, I would say, 9 months since it all happened, I've had a lot to be grateful for. I've actually managed to work. In July, the film industry didn't take as much of a hit as the theatre industry. So BBC and BBC and ITV and all these media production companies, they started filming in May and June. They were already filming. I was already filming around July. I was already filming something, and voiceover work, which is relatively COVID safe. So I ended up doing a lot more voiceover work than I've done in the past. Like the past 5 months, I've been doing a lot of voiceover work, which I'm really grateful for, both in Swedish and English. So yeah, I've developed this huge attitude for gratitude.
Wow. You are just a great testament of the things I have been saying to people, that there are people who have actually survived the pandemic by getting jobs or actually bettering themselves. And it's just really amazing to hear. Amazing to hear your story in that respect. And you're a Black man who speaks Swedish. Can you say some, and I don't mean to stereotype, but can you say some Swedish to me?
What do you want me to say in Swedish? It's like...
Just say, President Obonjo is the greatest dictator.
Okay, right. All right, so I'm just to explain before I start speaking, I'm from Stockholm. I grew up in Stockholm.
Okay.
And so my Swedish accent is very Stockholm. It's like being from the UK and having a London accent. So basically just if anyone wants to know, so there's so many different accents and dialects as well.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what do you want me to say? You want to say President Obonjo is the greatest, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I'll milk it out a little bit. I'll just do the whole introduction, right?
Yeah.
Hej allihopa, god kväll. Jag sitter just nu här med en videointervju med president Obonjo, en av de mest kramgodaste diktaturerna som jag någonsin träffat i mitt liv. Helt kramgod. Det är svårt att tro att han är en diktator, för han är så otroligt, som jag har sagt, han är otroligt kramgod. Och han är bland de bästa, absolut bland de bästa. Och vi har just nu lite soft konversation just nu, pratar om allting, industrin och livet och hela köret. Så jag hoppas att ni sitter typ fastspända i soffan med er bärs och lite kvällsmiddag, vad ni än gör ikväll, och typ slår av tvn och kollar in här. Och där går live på
You can
YouTube.
stop. That sounds so German.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's a Germanic language, but to be honest, a German person would never understand Swedish.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I studied German. I studied German when I was at school in Sweden, because you can study German, Spanish, and French. And I studied German and Spanish, and I understand a little bit of German, but I know for a fact when I'm around German people and they hear Swedish, they're just like, what?
Wow. So how many languages can you speak?
I'm bilingual, so I'm obviously English and Swedish. Those are the two things. In terms of voiceover, those are the jobs I get. I'm conversational in Spanish because I studied Spanish, and I'm also conversational, well, less conversational in Portuguese. I studied Brazilian Portuguese, so my accent in Portuguese is very Brazilian.
Wow. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of talent that you've got. I would always call it like multitasking. You know, you've got your fingers in every pie.
I don't know if it's like multitasking or just like lack of focus. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Now I'm bored. Let's do that. Oh no, I'm bored. Oh, what about that? So I mean, I wouldn't say I've got like I wouldn't say I've got ADD. I definitely wouldn't say that. You know, like that would be go a little bit too far. But you know, I think it's just I don't know, multitasking or just lack of focus. I don't know, just.
Yeah, but yeah, but especially in the era that we're in, where you know. I'm sure those skills, if you were just one-dimensional, so for example, let me just explain, in the comedy industry, you're either a live performer or a writer or a voice artist or you're doing advertising. Can you imagine if you're just a live performer and you don't do anything else and there is no live performance, which has been the case since March? You're screwed. You're screwed. Yeah. And that's the point I'm trying to make, that it's in this day and age, even if the pandemic wasn't happening, it's better to be multi-skilled, because you never know when those skills will be needed.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. I mean, I think, to be honest, I think the same thing goes with acting, because you get actors who are. I've been to certain acting classes. I remember, like, I went to an acting course once years ago, and the facilitator who actually organized it, very direct woman, and I appreciate her bluntness. Like that's one thing I always appreciate bluntness. But I remember she was also a life coach, which was quite interesting. So she would have like one-to-one chats with us after a 10-week course. And this wasn't my acting education. I already trained as an actor prior to that, but it was like just like an extracurricular course. And I remember when she asked me about my progress from week 1 to week 10. And I remember at that time, I just got signed up with a modeling agency. So I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I got signed up with a modeling agency. And she was like, you need to make a decision. Either you're an actor or you're a model. You can't be both. You can't be flashy. You know, I was just like, okay, right, yeah. I was just like, wow, I just felt terrible. And I'm like, now when I'm think of it, I'm like, okay, I can hear her, I can see her points. You need to have a certain focus. Like, what is it that you want to do? But at the same time, don't limit yourself, because you get some actors who are like, I am an actor, I'm an actor, and that's what I do, and etc. And some actors, for instance, which is very common. A lot of actors are brilliant actors, and they're so well versed with Shakespeare, and they're killing it in the theater game and film game, like just absolutely amazing. But when it comes to movement, it's just like, you know, it's like putting a square peg into a circle sometimes, and you come across a lot of that. So I think why limit yourself? You know, like it's pretty much what you said. Like if you only do live performances, you know. Yeah, but same. Yeah, don't limit yourself. Makes you more interesting. Also, it stimulates you a lot more as well. You know, it's upskilling is stimulating, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got lots of questions. So the very first one, obviously, is you're a physical performer. You act, you model, voice artist. Which do you prefer? Which is the most enjoyable out of all of them?
Wow. Can you remind me what I do again? I'm kidding. Gosh, well, I think I'm doing what I enjoy doing. My passions are like, so my passion is movement. First and foremost, I am a movement performer. I love physical theatre. I love devising. I love using my body. So I'm a very physical performer. I'm a physical actor. I've always been more comfortable expressing myself with my body. And believe it or not, I'm actually not very confident with speaking. I actually hate speaking in front of a live audience. Public speaking is like the most traumatizing thing I can imagine, which is why I tend to struggle a lot with theatre. I love, as much as I love, generally just appreciate the theatre. I love going to see my friends perform, and I love it and I miss it. But as an actor, I get terrified. So I'm pretty much doing what I love doing: movement, film, and voiceover. Those are like literally I just kind of honed in on it 2 years ago, and I just realized that's what I want to do. That's what inspires me. That's what drives me. So yeah, I'm closer to doing what I just really want to do. So, but yeah, between the three of them, it's just, I don't know, it's really hard. I mean, modeling, I fell into it by accident. I had friends who were telling me like, oh well, if you're struggling financially, what have you thought of doing modeling? Because that could really sort things out. And I'm like, what? Okay. I fell into it by accident. So someone just sent a picture of me to a photographer, and I just got a phone call, and this work started like snowballing. But yeah, it's hard. I don't know. Like movement. I think movement is my passion, mate. And you can incorporate in all of it, and modeling and film and whatnot.
You might not remember this, but you asked me to come. You invited me to one of your theater shows.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was quite intense because
that was an interesting piece, wasn't it? I'd never done anything like that before. That was completely out of my comfort zone. I'd never done something like that. That was very new for me. So yeah.
One of the reasons why I wanted you on this podcast is obviously I tend to focus on political subjects. I demand that people come to my podcast, and I also demand that people think about what particular subject they want to talk about. And when I was thinking of guests, I just remember that theater show. If I remember it correctly, it had lots of political messages because it was about oppression. This was about 4 years ago, but it just resonated with me in such a way. It was such a powerful performance that I enjoyed, almost like when I do my comedy, that you could, it's not about preaching to people to convert them, but it's an opportunity that once you're on the platform, either on stage or wherever it is, or you've got a microphone, you have a responsibility to impart some messages to people. And that's what that theater show did for me that day. And it's been good. And you're obviously a Black man. What part of the world are you from originally, apart from Sweden?
Apart from Sweden, well, I mean, my passport is Swedish, obviously, but I'm not clearly not indigenously. Interesting enough, my parents are from South Africa. I don't look South African. But yeah, my parents are from South Africa, so yeah.
Okay. And have you been there?
Not that I can remember, to be honest. I've got the flag just over there somewhere. That's South African flag, by the way. Yeah. But I lived in Sierra Leone when I was about 3 years old, and I do have quite vivid memories of Sierra Leone, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. So I invited you here, and I demanded you came on the podcast. I gave you short notice. I said, you've got to do this before you travel. And my people made sure it happened. We couldn't care less whether you were traveling the next day. We also said that you need to focus on a particular subject that you want to talk about. So what would you like to talk about? What would you like us to explore that is political and that you could change? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like this whole interview is subject to swerve in different ways, which is quite nice and delicious. I thought about this just now because yesterday I went for a voice recording for a radio commercial. It was like a voiceover job, and then one of the client was listening in, and it was for a big, like it was for like a big sports brand, and the client was listening in, and when I was recording it, one of the feedback from the client was, okay, so maybe because I'm northern, I can't do northern accent, but like maybe because I'm northern, but like it's the way you said something, this one word, that it just sounded a little bit too posh. Do you mind changing it a little bit to make it sound a bit more northern? And I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because this is just like a general commercial that was going to be playing on the radio and on Spotify like next week, and it just aimed at the general public. So it wasn't necessarily meant for someone up north, like in Manchester or Leeds, because in that case they probably would have gotten someone who can do like a northern accent, which I can't do. Maybe with quite a lot of practice, but you know, not on the spot. So I thought that was quite bizarre, but obviously I didn't say that. I was like, yeah, it's the client. So I'm like, yeah, of course, sure. I'll do my best, you know. But I remember speaking to my friend about it, and we just went, what? That's really bizarre. But that just reminded me a little bit. That tiny little comment just triggered something just down the line from memory lane, where I've been to quite a lot of auditions, and I've been told, for instance, could you sound a little bit less well-spoken, or could you sound a little bit more street, or a little bit more urban? Obviously, depending on if the character I'm playing is, I don't know, from, you know, Southeast London or Tottenham, where, you know, where there's a certain like Southeast London accent that's spoken by Black people, you know, and then that's just like fair enough. But yeah, there've been certain jobs where I've been to, like applied for audition wise, where that hasn't necessarily been in the requirement, but the client, or like not client, but like the person auditioning me has said, could you just sound a little bit less well spoken? And it has felt like a very, very subjective comment.
Mm-hmm. So they want you to sound
rather than objective and structural, like you know, like.
So they want you to sound urban. They want you to sound Black.
Yeah. They're most on urban and Black, and I also remember, like, just further down, when I was at drama school, I was about 19 and 20, and this agent came to our school, very posh lady, like very posh. She was like in her 50s, 60s, very, like, just very, very posh, very well dressed, very well presentable, like spoke almost like the Queen's English, like heightened RP. And I asked her a question. So I was like, so what's the market like for black actors? I was in my second year at drama school. And at that time, I'm not sure how much you know about, but at that time, being Black was in, you know, they're like, people were saying, oh, you're gonna get so much work because they want Black people now. Now they want Black people. Whereas, like, you know, and then it changes, and like, it's like, oh, you should get a lot, because sometimes it changed from Black people to like, oh no, now they want like Pakistani actors or Indian actors, and now they want Filipino actors. And I'm hoping that kind of changes, that, you know, like, this is my skin, it's here to stay. It's not a fashion trend, right? Do you know what I mean? But at that time, it was okay. Like, at that time, Black people were getting a lot. It was like, there was a lot of requests for Black actors. So I just asked her, so what's the market like for Black actors? Because I was the only Black student in my not just in my year, but in my whole school. And then she said, there's a lot of work for Black actors right now. A lot of TV production companies, BBC, they're starting to put in a huge amount of requests for African actors, African Caribbean actors for certain jobs. The one thing I would say, just try to look a bit more street. Just try to look a bit more urban and street. And I was just like, I was just confused. I was like 19 and 20. I was like confused. And even my classmates, or the people in my school who were predominantly white from like middle class backgrounds, because most people who go to drama school are actually from middle class white backgrounds, and because drama school is expensive. But and they were like predominantly from like middle class white backgrounds, and even they just reacted a little bit to that comment, and they were like, even they found that comment quite bizarre. Like, what? Okay. And I obviously I was quite, I hadn't been out yet, you know. So once I came out of the school, I kind of understood. I kind of got a prerequisite of that. That comment was a prerequisite of what I was about to
experience.
So like, yeah, me, you know, yeah.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. So you said you were the only black kid in the school. How did that feel?
Well, black kid in the school, that sounds like elementary school. Oh yeah, yes, I was the only black student in the school. Do you know what? Like race wasn't necessarily something a topic that I was like. It wasn't necessarily blown in my face. I never like. I didn't have to. Interestingly enough, despite being the only black person, I didn't feel like I was reminded of my race necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only time I noticed that was in terms of when we were doing plays, or even when we were doing small plays. There weren't any characters that kind of appealed necessarily to my casting, and like I just thought I wouldn't necessarily be casted in this, you know. Obviously, it was great doing like a great experience doing Harold Pinter plays, and you know, and I was almost going to say David Mamet, or you know whatnot in Shakespeare, and obviously in Chekhov. It was a great experience trying that to figure out, at least whether I enjoyed it or not, at least I tried that. But I think I was screaming for something that was possibly like new writing for like black actors, playing a 21-year-old kid from, I don't know, North London, Northeast London, with their everyday issues, whether it's not necessarily just the stereotypical, like knife crime and knife crime and drug dealer that you get so much of, that you get a lot of, but just like a regular like black 19-21-year-old kid who is at uni and has his issues, mental health issues, whatever that may be. And I never really had that, So yeah, that was one thing.
So you clearly have an accent that obviously challenges people. So you remind me of a time when I used to, before I started performing comedy, and I spoke to an interviewer on the phone, and it was that they had to do some interview screening, and then they basically said, okay, fine, come for the face-to-face interview. And they were quite shocked when I arrived for the interview, because they didn't know I was black. They just they freaked out.
Wow. How long ago was that?
They was talking about well over like 25, 30 years ago. I know I'm showing my age now, but this was like 30 years ago. It was crazy. It was so obvious that they were in shock. Like, whoa, there's a black man sounding like that. Is that for you, based on all the other things that you do, is that an advantage for you or a disadvantage?
Sorry, how do you mean? Like,
I mean, in terms of the way you sound and the way you
speak. To be honest, I feel that I was almost brought up to believe that it was a disadvantage. Because even like growing up in Sweden, because I lived in Sweden until I was 18. I moved when I was 18, and when I speak Swedish, a lot of people think I'm blonde and blue-eyed, and I had an incident when I was in Sweden.
Wow.
And I was speaking to someone on the phone, and I met them in person. They're like, "Oh, you're black. You sounded so Swedish." And I've had people come up to me, go like, "How long have you lived in Sweden? You speak really good Swedish." And I'm like, and sometimes, because there is actually a big immigration community in Sweden. I'm not unique at all. Like
I understand that.
All black people in Sweden. But yeah, there were moments where I got picked on. I got made fun of because I was as quote unquote like proper Swedish, whatever you want to call it. But since working in London, I realized speaking what people say, I don't know, proper Swedish, whatever you want to call it, that has actually been advantageous for me. Cool. Like I've made money of it, like voiceover work in Swedish.
Excellent.
And I've done like some of the voiceover work I've done has been for big, like, obviously, you mentioned in my bio, but also learning Swedish apps. I've done learning Swedish apps. Like I've learned my voice for that. So someone who's learning Swedish they're learning it from a black person. It does not look, it does not look blonde. It doesn't look like the archetypical Scandinavian person, which I find hilarious. So it can be frustrating. It can be frustrating when you hear people commenting, "Oh, you speak so fancy and well." You know, like it's unnecessary. It's incredibly unnecessary as a comment. It really is. Even if that person might mean it as a compliment, you know, but it's just unnecessary. It's almost irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
I think for me, that's, I know that it's working for you, especially in terms of the Swedish language. I just find it really, I would have thought it's the other way around, that if you weren't sounding the way you sounded, that you will face more discrimination. It's almost like when you apply for a job and you have an African name. There used to be a view where whoever is going through that application will never choose an African name, but will choose someone who has an English name. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That is still the problem. That is still the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Black Londoners who have English-sounding names because their parents are from the Commonwealth Caribbean countries, so they have like anglicized names. And then when they come for the interview, they're like, "Oh shit," you know. So
there was one recently. There was one recently. Someone told me that someone had been to an organization, walked into an organization, and was told the person's African name, and the person said, "Oh, that's an African name, isn't it? It sounds really African."
Wow.
So yeah. So Durassie, yeah. So based on the challenges that you faced, if you were a leader, of a nation or of the world, how would you tackle these issues? What would you want to see change? How would you make that difference? Because obviously you want to be accepted for who you are, not based on your skin, or based on how you sound. People should just accept you as you are. But we know there are prejudices that people put people into little boxes. People stereotype by the way you sound or by the way you look. You've already mentioned all the times they want you to sound urban. If you were in charge, leader of the free world or of a nation, maybe, I don't know, leader of South Africa, not Laughter Republic, there's no way I'll give up my country for you, but maybe South Africa or Britain or wherever, where you were in a position of influence, what would you like to see based on the things you've said?
Okay, wow, such a, so much weight in that question. So there's a very thin line between being curious and being judgmental, So first of all, one thing I need to stress is being ignorant there's nothing wrong with being ignorant, It's your attitude towards your ignorance. So there's one thing being ignorant, asking questions out of ignorance because you're just curious and you have no shame in asking that. You're like, I don't know. But you need to, as long as you admit that you are ignorant, I am ignorant and I'm asking because I'd love to get some perspective and learn. I'd love for you to educate me on this because I don't know about this culture. I've only been brought up in this community and it's very homogenous. I haven't traveled much, etc. So there's a difference between that and then someone who's very ignorant, but they are so rigid, like so rigidly set in like everything I've been brought up with, everything that I've been brought up around is the norm to me. So anything that's different to how I've been brought up, that is strange, and that needs to be pointed out and addressed. Whether it's with microaggressions or with passive aggressiveness, however you want to do it. So that is a problem. That is a problem, and that's someone who doesn't want to admit that they are ignorant. We're all ignorant. It's just how we deal with it, right? So that's the one thing, first of all, that I just really, really want to establish. Now, one thing I'd love to address is, I would love to address. So yes, we live in a multicultural city. London is a very multicultural city, but you do also get certain communities of pure Londoners who know very little of the outside world. Obviously, like some people a lot of people who are English, they only speak English. So they only speak English, and that's it, And and you know, they haven't made the effort of trying to learn and understand the language well, and then they get baffled when they meet people coming from EU countries or other countries, and they all of a sudden just they speak English. Either they picked up English or they spoke English before in their own country. You know, it's like, wow, that's crazy. And I was like, but there's no reason for you to hold that person in awe. Like, so I think I'd love to encourage just more like knowledge in geography. To be honest, I'd love to push geography. I love to push linguistics. I love to push anthropology. I've always been into anthropology. So I would love to push that. I'd love to push that and just integrate that way more in like schools and faculties, arts, especially in art and media, because mate, like there's a point where we can laugh about cultural stereotypes as much as possible, you know, and then, you know, but it gets to a point where it just gets really old, you know. It gets to a point where it gets really, really old, and sometimes these cultural stereotypes actually becomes teachers to people, and so they meet someone, they're like, oh, you're from that country, but that you don't look, that's not what I've seen on TV. All I've seen on TV is how people from that country, you know. So like when I say Sweden, clearly, I mean, they understand that I'm not, you know, indigenously Swedish, but when I tell people sometimes I'm Swedish, like, oh, is your granddad Swedish? Or, and I'm like, this, and I just have to go like, there's this thing called immigration, you know. So my parents immigrated to Sweden from somewhere else, you know. Yeah, so I love to make that, to be honest, I like to make that almost mandatory, like preaching the dictator here, but make just like geography, languages, anthropology even way more mandatory, because that's one criticism I've noticed quite a bit within the UK. I've come across people who are born and bred who are like very, very knowledgeable about the outside world, about the world, and linguistically as well. But it's rare. It is really rare, and it's I think it's a lot of the Commonwealth countries as well. As you get in the UK and also like in the US as well. I had some, when I was in the US, I had some really very, very amusing encounters with some African Americans I spoke to, even like in New York. When I was in New York, I had a great conversation with an interesting conversation with this African American gentleman who was old enough to be my grandfather. Very nice, very, very nice man. Like he was actually really lovely. But he could tell that I had an accent, and he was like, "Oh, so where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, it's from London." "Oh, do they have electricity in London? Do they have, I'm not even joking. I was like, "Do they have electricity in London? Do they have houses in London?" Like he generally asked me these questions, and I'm like, and I was taken aback, and I just went, "Yes, we do."
So because he didn't know where England was located, and he obviously thought that England was Africa. Obviously, that's what he thinks.
Possibly, you know. I mean, you know, if I, to be honest, if I grew up in Africa, like we would have a even lengthier conversation, because there's these stereotypes that, you know, that people have about Africa, even Black people outside of Africa who've never been to Africa, you know, like the views they have of Africa is, you know, quite shocking, you know. So that would be something like, so as an African coming as a student to maybe like the UK or the US or anywhere outside of the continent, I can imagine the stereotypes they have to deal with. Like, oh my God.
I tell you what, one of the things that lockdown has done for me is I'm now on TikTok. I've gone viral on TikTok.
Oh man, you've fallen into it.
I've fallen into it. I have to find a creative outlet. And just before the second lockdown, I went to Speaker's Corner, and I went to have a address the public in Speaker's Corner. And someone asked me, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Liverpool." And he could not believe I was from Liverpool, because I obviously put on a very thick African accent. And he could not believe, and even though I was born in Liverpool, he just could not believe I was born in Liverpool. He just thought I was lying. So I posted that on TikTok, and there was a long debate that how can he be born in Liverpool and he has an African accent? And it really messed their minds up. They were just, that's how it went viral. People were just passing it on. He says he's from Liverpool, but he has an African accent. He's a liar. But what they don't know is that, yes, I was born in Liverpool and I went back when I was age 5 to Nigeria. Do you get it? And you know, and I don't have a Liverpudlian accent. I've lost it, you know, I've lost it. But they just couldn't understand that there are people who travel all over the world, who are immigrants, who move from one place to the other. And they just couldn't understand it. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been. I know that you have a flight to catch. You're on your way to, where are you off to without breaching your security?
I'm flying to Stockholm. Off to Stockholm for Christmas. Spend time with family. So,
excellent. So you're going for your Christmas break.
Yeah, just for like 10 days or so. Yeah.
But that's better, because if you were in London, that would be tier 3. You wouldn't be able to spend.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it's pretty intense in Stockholm because they didn't have a lockdown, and they're kind of paying for it right now. So.
What? Because you tend to hear lots of stories. So they didn't have lockdown. So they've lost a lot of people compared to England?
No, God, no, not compared to England. I should hope not, because like the population in Sweden is less than the population in London.
Okay.
So that would be horrible.
Okay.
But in comparison to the neighboring countries like Norway, Denmark, and Finland, they all had lockdowns, and their cases are way less than Sweden.
Okay. Why did they decide not to have a lockdown? Do you know?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, someone I spoke to actually said one thing that was quite interesting. He mentioned like, well, Swedes don't like being told what to do. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know, perhaps. It's just like, I don't know, from like a generic anthropological, I don't know, perspective. But it's a mystery to me. It really, really is. I was actually surprised personally that they didn't decide not to do that. And I was there in October, and it was so bizarre. It was obviously there were like signs in the distance, and in supermarkets you were required to maintain like 7-foot distance at least, standing at least 2 meters apart. But when I was on the tube, like I was the only person wearing a mask on the tube.
Yeah.
It was weird, and walking on the street, walking in downtown central Stockholm, it was like nothing had happened. It was so bizarre. It was just like Twilight Zone. I was just baffled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, you take care of yourself down there. Yeah, we're waiting for you back in England. Scary thoughts. Because London, as we know, is now tier 3, and it's just all over the place. Just one of my frustrations is that I'm not in power to address some of these political issues that we have in England. But it's what it is. I think they should have just cancelled Christmas.
And also you're at house arrest as well.
I'm on the house arrest, but I wish they could just cancel Christmas and move it to the summer. That's what they should have done.
That's controversial.
Well, you know what's really interesting is when the Muslims were celebrating their own festival, they didn't allow them to. It was a lockdown. So why are you treating the Muslims differently from the Christians?
That's a valid point, to be honest. So,
yeah, it's utter shambles, utter madness. It's just crazy. But look, let's not talk about the lockdown. I'm sick and tired of talking about the lockdown, to be honest with you.
To be honest with you, I don't care much Christmas. I'm not a Christmas person. I just miss summer. I want it to be spring. I want it to be April, May again. So yeah.
So what are the plans for the future? Are we going to see you in Hollywood one day or Nollywood?
Wow. I mean, I haven't really been thinking it that far. To be honest, I just miss traveling with work again.
Okay.
That's just the one thing. This is the longest I've been in the UK, without going abroad. Because normally during summertime, I'm always abroad. And I was meant to go abroad for work, but then obviously you know what happened. So I just miss doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I've been following you on Instagram. You do have lots of videos. I think the last one I saw, you were dancing in a room.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, like you said, you need to use TikTok for your creative outlet. I just my life prior to COVID was going to dance classes and movement classes because so I was going bonkers, mate. So I just started combining movement, music, two of my passions. Boom, let's mash them together.
Yeah.
Let's create little dance videos. Let's put them up, and I've become a better mover because of that. I've
Excellent.
actually become a much better mover.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So look, don't let me take any more of your time. We've been talking now for well over 30, 35, if not 40 minutes. And I know what's the travel time like from England to Sweden? Is it
2.5 hours?
Oh, so it's not a lot.
No, it's not too long, but you know what? It takes 2.5 hours to fly to Switzerland, apparently, which is further down.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, enjoy the Christmas and Happy New Year. I don't know how to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year in Swedish, but maybe
in Swedish. Okay, right. Repeat after me. God jul.
God jul.
That's Merry Christmas. Och and.
Och and.
Oh no. Och means and. Och.
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 Okay, well, let's keep practicing on it. Gott. Nytt. År. Yeah, what's that? God jul och gott nytt år. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I will let you know when I publish this. It will be on YouTube. So you'll be viewed on YouTube, and you will also, your podcast will be downloaded either on Spotify, all these other platforms. But it's been a real pleasure. And I wish you every success, continued success in your modeling, voiceover, physical performer, actor, everything that you wish for. I hope you continue to achieve it. And who knows, maybe when this lockdown is over and the pandemic is over, we can catch each other's shows. Who knows? Because I'm intending to go back into the theater. Actually, I can talk to you about that some other time. I want to start doing theater shows.
I would love that. Oh my God, I crave going to the theater.
Yes, I know.
I just miss seeing a show. And I remember the show you did in Stoke Newington a couple of years ago. Like what was it, 5 years ago? It was like a stand-up show. That was funny, man.
Oh, is that
I really enjoyed that.
Is that the Memoirs of President Obonjo or something like that?
Yeah, it was like Ryan's Bar in Stoke Newington. That was
those were the good days. And it's just really, I mean, I was supposed to be performing tomorrow in Hastings, and they decided that it was tier 3, and the promoter was sold out. And then I found out this afternoon it's not happening. So General COVID has won. He or she has won the year. Humanity is just a complete and utter write-off. But I can't wait for the year to just end and see what happens for 2021. But I'm hopeful. I mean, if I stay alive and I'm not assassinated by the British government or COVID doesn't get me, I have done well this year. But
my friend, it's a scary world out there. So but yeah, we're being brave. We're being brave every single day. We step outside.
Yes, definitely. So good luck, safe journey, and that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed what was such a very wonderful conversation with Durassie. I didn't even ask him how can people find you if they want to follow you.
So obviously don't follow me in real life. Okay, kind of creepy, but I tend to use Instagram mainly. So I'm the easiest person to find on Instagram, which is kind of scary, but so Durassie, it's just at Durassie. That's the platform I use the most. I'm on Twitter and Facebook, but I to be honest, I rather use them. Twitter confuses me. Facebook, well, I just can't be bothered. So yeah, it's mainly Instagram.
Okay, so I thought it was such a wonderful conversation. A man with many talents speaks all sorts of languages, you know, multi-skilled black man doing pretty well. And we need a lot more of them out there to break the stereotypes. I found what was really useful. There was this discussion about racial stereotyping and the casting and his experience. So, listeners, I hope you have found this extremely useful. I know he's going to Sweden. We've already had 2 downloads from Sweden. 2 people have downloaded a previous episode. So I suspect that we'll probably get more downloads from Sweden because Durassie is from. it's from but if I don't have another podcast before Christmas, I want to wish my listeners a fantastic Christmas. But I suspect I will have another one because, you know, I can't rest. I'm doing this podcast like I'm shooting jokes, like I'm at war. And that is exactly what I'm going to continue to do. So Merry Christmas in advance. And I'm sure I will release this before Christmas Day. And there might be another one before then. But thank you so much.
Awesome.